also, you will find that beginning piecers love it because they don't have any preconceived notions how it should be done. New quilters have just as good a success as longtime quilters. And that's demonstrated in my book. Many of the quilts have been made by first, or new quilters, I should say. Today, you have the old-fashioned drunkard's path pieces. You have a pie piece, or the convex piece, and you have an L-shaped piece. And when you sew them together, you're always straight line sewing, and you will notice that all of the quilts in the book and the ones of the samples I have brought with me are made with one fabric. And that's the premise of each of the books. You go to the store, you buy your fabric, you don't have to worry about matching, running out, making multiple shopping trips. And it's a great way to put together a quilt. And it's very challenging because you do your own thing. When you have, let me see, I have to do this backwards to me now. You have your pie piece like this, and if you look at the bottom, and your L piece. And this will look like, oh, I can't do this without. And it looks like these are never going to work. I mean, does that look like that's going to sew into a curve? I learned this from Virginia Walton's Creative Curves instructor. And it works every time. You're always straight line sewing as you pull it through. And you try not to stretch it because we don't use the B word. We don't say bias. And as you come around, it will fit perfectly. They're all done the same way. So these are the two pieces that you use in every unit. You can do it with a 2-inch blocks, 3.5, 5s, whatever. Recommend using a stiletto, something pointy to work as you go. This is my stiletto, 100 years old, well, just about. And you can use chopsticks, you can use a lot of different things. You use this to top piece of fabric. And you're always straight line sewing, and you sew a few stitches, and then you turn it, and you continue straight. So we're not doing any curves, we're not using any special tools. I have tried a variety of tools for curve piecing, and I always come back to the stiletto and my fingers. And sometimes it will look and say, oh no, I've got a little crease in there. But when you unfold it, there's no crease. It just looks like there might be. And I cheated, I've used big pieces. And when you sew them, they will. The curved seam generally will fall to the pie piece, and there you go. Absolutely no pins. And I have extras cut for whomever would like to come up and try it when we're done. So that's all there is to it. 1/4-inch foot. I do have my foot release loosened up a little bit. You know, we have these wonderful new sewing machines. But when the foot comes down, it really grasps the fabric tightly, and you want to be able to maneuver that. And this has been set so that I can do any kind of sewing with any of the feet, and it just gives me a chance to maneuver that fabric better. It's all made from one fabric, one striped novelty fabric. And it has some of the old Drunkard's Path designs. We have the birds or the doves down the bottom right-hand corner, and there's the wedding ring, there's king's crown, there's, oh dear, I can't think of the names of them. The point being that that piece was made with one fabric. The ones before me are made with one fabric. The ones on your left, again, are made with the one fabric, and then the Christmas fabric, but it doesn't look so Christmassy from a distance. And then there's the pink one that's made with fuchsia. And again, no matter what size the blocks, whether they're 3.5-inch squares, 2-inch squares, 7-inch squares, they all come from the same fabric, and they're all from the old Drunkard's Path units. In the book, it's demonstrated that there is one fabric that makes a number of them. And I was showing some of the ladies prior to some of yours coming by. And they are just amazing, and they're all original designs that some of them had done. How much time do I have? I'm okay. All right, I have to tell you a quick story. I had 3 different groups that worked on this process. The first group, there were 9 in each group. The first group were ladies that work outside the home, professional technical people, computer programmers, math instructors, and things like that. And they were assigned a fabric and the instructions. And within 20 minutes, they were really ignoring me. And they were fairly new quilters. And the rest of the day, they just went and did their own thing. And their quilts are in the book. And I thought, oh, that's really easy. And then I thought, now wait a minute. Most of the quilters I know tend to be retired persons and or persons that have not worked outside the home, but they're precision piecers, and they can follow patterns right to a T, and they oftentimes, within a pattern, will put their own spin on it and come up with some really original pieces. So I went, I support 4 guilds. So another guild went to, and I had 9 persons that wanted to give it a try. Now these ladies had not worked outside the home, but were really good quilters, but they really didn't want to sew curves without pins. And these were the ladies that, like I said, within 20 minutes, it was like they had a freedom to sew curves without pins, and they just kept chucking those little babies right through that sewing machine. And they found out that they didn't have to make a unit and press, because they just naturally fall to one side. The only time that they would press is when they would get a square put together like that and square it up, the ones on your left. And they had another freedom. They weren't ironing every little bit. As the day progressed, they had followed patterns so long that they had a time deciding which designs they liked the best, because this was all new to them, designing their own product. And it was the quietest I had ever seen these ladies. I'd worked with them for years. And by the end of the day, theirs are also in the book, they were so excited because they had that ownership. It was theirs. No one else had one like it. Well, then I had a third group. They were the noisiest group. The first two groups were quiet. When I do a workshop, I remind people it would be the quietest workshop they ever took. No one's talking to their buddy because they're doing their own thing. And I usually can go home about 11 o'clock and they just keep on working, not even know I'd gone. So we've had tremendous results with this. I've taught it now for 3 years, different parts of the country, and it has been received well. And I always take kits with me because oftentimes people will say, well, my shop doesn't carry this particular kind of fabric. And I have found with first text that people just go online and Google it and they find it, because the first book is still selling well because it's a new process. Any questions before I do it? Ta-da! The question is, are all of the quilts made with one fabric? Yes. Is there a particular size to the width of the motif? You will see the motifs, the little sand shoes and umbrellas and things on the one to your right. They had different sizes of width of the motifs, as does the poinsettias on your left. And here, the ones in front of you, the rose ones, they have, they were just a two-stripe, and these are demonstrated in the books that we have here. So two stripes, that would be considered a two-stripe, you know, with the different motifs. Does that answer your question? And any other questions? Oh, watch this ta-da moment. I'm talking about, yeah, it comes this way. If everything doesn't fall, this is one I'm putting together using one fabric. And Vanna, Claudine, has the fabric here. Claudine, here's the fabric. And that's the fabric. And I thought, okay, what can I do with that different? So I'm putting together a tree. Do you think it kind of looks like a tree? Or branches or something. Here could be a bird. There's a bird block down there in the bottom right. And someone said to me, well, it didn't look like a bird to them. So I think it had better change this particular block and then just redesign that arc and have a smaller part for a head. Makes sense, right? Well, then I was looking at that and I thought, all right, that's really not a good plan. Because my background is all beige. Maybe I should have dark birds that would show up on a beige background. Makes sense. So I'm trying to, I have parts, and I'll do it with beige birds and see what happens. So you never can tell. You might see this in a magazine or something or other. But the point is, you get some fabrics, just don't stick with a block. You cut your 2 units. Oh, Miss Vanna, would you kind of roll that up or throw it in the corner or do something with it? Before you do anything, you put everything on your wall. In parts. And you do your whole thing like I just showed you. And play with them long before you even sew them. Walk out of your sewing space or out of your dining room or wherever you work. Come back and you'll say, like me and the dark birds or the light birds, oh, that is so bad, I want to try something differently. Excuse me. I guess that's all I can think to tell you. Oh, if you want, this, I had this in a magazine. This little tip. If you don't have a design wall, run down to your dollar store, buy a tablecloth that has the flannel back. Oh, don't get the $1 one, get the $2.95 one. It has a better flannel. And you just roll them up, tack it on top of a door, tack it on top of your shelves. I have them kind of around my space, tacked in a lot of places, and I just unroll them to see what I'm not getting done, roll them back up again. But that's a good way to have an instant design wall. Works every time. Oh, that's your hint for the day. There you go.